What's up, YouTube? Coming at you on Black Friday. Yeah. So whoever's not shopping is should be on YouTube, right? All right. So what's up, everybody? This is Greg from Greg's Tutoring NYC. Hope y'all doing fine. I'm gonna pop out a stream of a kind of a little different nature today. Um, it's about products you should know, multiplications that you should know for the SHSAT. As you guys know, I'm less concerned about memorizing, you guys memorizing stuff, and that you're um, better in concepts and topics. At the same time, there's a whole bunch of information that you guys should have retained by now, and it should be part of your fluidity, your numeracy, your no hesitation math, and just your comfort with numbers, your number sense, those kind of things like that. And what kind of happens at this line of the sand, if you will, and not just for the SHSAT, but for many exams and even just for your classroom. You know, if you don't know something like the 10 by 10 multiplication table, you guys are kind of screwed to be pretty blatant about this, because there's so many examples that come up, and I even see super kids who shouldn't be doing this, um, you know, counting with their fingers, using alternate techniques, all these kind of things like that. And these should be 2-second things. Math is hard enough. The questions that you're being asked to solve are deep often, and you don't want to get bogged down with 7 times 6, right? That kind of a thing. So what I'm going to do is throw out here multiplications and kind of things like that that you guys should know backwards and forwards. Um, now, I'm presenting this kind of at a disadvantage point, which is that some of you are going to be taking the SAT in 6 days. So I'm hoping this is actually a legacy video rather than something I'm trying to tell you guys you should memorize in 6 days. Because if you haven't memorized it since basically grade 3 when multiplication gets introduced, you're probably not going to memorize it in the next 6 days. So anyway, there's a link out there, gregstutoring.com/PDFs /products to know.pdf. That's the link I'm going to be using here. So if it's not clear to you guys, that's what's going to be. Let me throw it in the chat here as well, just since it'll be everywhere. It's also in the descriptions for this video. So I'm going to cover some multiplications that you should know. And again, as much as I'm against just memorizing stuff blindly with wild abandon, if you will, it's still something you must know at this grade level. It's like 2 plus 2, 9 plus 6. It's stuff that's holding you back if you don't know it from this point onward. Whether you take the SAT or not, whether you take the PSAT or not, whether you take any of the exams I have listed in the title, you need to have this as your proficiency level. As you go into high school and do Algebra 1 and other classes, geometry, trigonometry, calculus, this is going to hold you back like 10,000 times just for not having these kind of fluidity and numeracy, no hesitation, just stuff that's got to be at your fingertips. And as I'll show you in a second, there's kind of a cascade of things that happen if you know some of these things. So let me get my my tablet set up here. Let's give us a color. Um, okay, we have that there. Let me just make sure the screen is showing what I think it does. It is. I'm not going to check to see if we're live. This is probably going to be a 10 or 15 minute um, YouTube. Actually, let me check if I am live because I don't even want to waste 10 minutes. So while I'm doing that, I'm Greg from Greg's Tutoring NYC. You guys can go to my website, https:/www.gregstutoringnyc.com. You can email me at gregstutoringnyc@gmail.com. And I'm willing to help you guys. I'm also willing to tutor you guys. Imagine that. Okay? All right, give me one more second here. I just want to make sure we're going. Okay, we are. All right. So I have hundreds of videos on this channel already. Please like, please subscribe, please share, please comment, please chat, right? I don't always want to just be talking to myself. Spread the word, bros. I'm dropping a lot of content that I charge a lot of people for, and I'm dropping it to you guys for free. All right? Free. Okay? And I have on my website, if you go to gregstutoring.com/gift, you can actually make a donation to me for all the hundreds of hours of videos I've done to you guys within the hundreds of videos I've done for you. All right, so let's jump into this. So most of you guys know the 10 by 10, and some of you know up to 12 by 12. But what you really need to do is to get into the 20 by 20. Memorize the multiplication table up to 20 by 20, all of it, okay? Just methodically go through it. And this doesn't need to be marathon sessions or cram sessions. This could be something you do, set up a weekly plan that you're gonna know the 13 times table, and then the next week the 14 times table, and then the next week the 15 times table, and the next week the 16 times table. And you can do this on the train or the bus on the way to school. You can do this every morning while you're eating breakfast. That kind of a thing, where you just continue to get more proficient and more proficient and more proficient. In particular, you should know the perfect squares up to 20 as well. Okay, that's part of memorizing the 20 by 20. So what am I talking about here? 11 times 11, 12 times 12, 13 times 13, 14 times 14. So something like 12 times 12, you should all know is 144, right? But when we work on these problems, what happens is a problem may have 288 in it, right? So it should be able to leap out at you while you're solving some of these problems. That 288 is 144 times 2. And this is the real benefit to knowing these things, okay? So when you see multiples of some of these things, right? Multiples is the clincher to a lot of this, especially since I'm doing this about the SHSAT and the other standardized tests. Many standardized tests are arithmetic-based, right? They're just testing you on arithmetic-based things with your thinking process, your problem-solving skills, those kind of things like that on top of it, right? So what you want to be able to do is work with that, okay? The only way to work with that is to know some of this basic information, all right? All right, I see a few people out there. Hello, say hi, jump in, please like and subscribe, okay? I do hundreds of videos for you guys. Let's keep it going. All right, let me get here. Just change the thing here. For some reason, my screen is coming out blurry. That is not on my side, guys. That's on YouTube side. So if you guys are seeing that same thing, it's not on my end. Sometimes you guys complain that the stuff is fuzzy. It's YouTube. It's not me. And you guys might be seeing it perfectly, even though I'm not. All right. Actually, on my phone, it's coming through perfectly. So just kind of a heads up, because some of you email sometimes like the screen was blurry. It has nothing to do with me. It's on your side, on your connection, and on YouTube as well, right? All right, so here's the perfect squares I have listed out, okay? What's important when you memorize these is do not memorize them in a normal order, okay? That's one of the problems with kids who memorize the multiplication table, is you're forcing yourself to remember it in a certain order, and then when it appears in a different way, like in a fact family, so in other words, 2 and 3 is 6, right? So some of you only memorize, say, 2 times 3. You should also be memorizing 3 times 2, right? And you should also be memorizing that 6 divided by 3 is 2, and that 6 divided by 2 is 3. So you want that all there. So even though I have this table listed along here, okay, you kind of want to jazz it up. And by the way, that's where flashcards and stuff come in. You can shuffle them and then just do them in any order. And you also want to do the backwards way. We're not just working on the first two digits equals the third digit. We're working backwards as two. So if you see 36, you should know in terms of perfect squares that this 6 by 6. You should know 12 by 144 is 12 times 12 and so on. All right? Okay. If you notice, I also have extra columns in here. This is cubes. So not only should you know perfect squares, x times x, you should know x times x times x. So I've listed a few of them here, which are cubes you should probably know. Okay? So 10 to the third, you probably know. Did you know 8 to the third is 512? Okay, that might come up in a problem somewhere. Also, I have a bunch of quads that you should memorize too in this column. Okay, so not only that 3 squared is 9, but that 3 to the fourth is 81. So these come up, not a lot, but there's still something. And again, it deals with your fluidity and knowing those kind of things like that, especially with other stuff. So sometimes it comes up directly, but it's the indirect uses that we'll really want to be keen on. Again, about this 288 I showed you before, right? It's not, that's going to pop up. It's probably less so that the 144 is going to pop up. It's the 288. And you want to know instantaneously, oh, that was a multiple of 144 or something like that, right? And then, oh, 144 is 12 times 12, right? And it all just falls into place. Okay, not a guarantee, but the point of this is to get kind of a heads up, all right? That kind of a thing, all right? Um, so that's the kind of thing. So all these numbers here that I put the lines next to, you should kind of know backwards and forwards. And even if, for instance, that you forget, let's say this one here, I'll change the color to green, this 256 right there, okay? Even though you may not always remember that's 4 to the fourth, right? Just you'll know it in the back of your mind. Oh, that was related to a perfect square, which by the way is 16 times 16. Okay, and 16 is 4 times 4, and this 16 is 4 times 4. So there's a way to connect the perfect squares into the so-called perfect quads. Okay, 3 to the fourth is the same way. It's 9 times 9. Right? So there's a connection to there. And it's true with some of these others. Okay, another one that comes about, even in addition to that, a lot of examples use 25 times 25. So that comes up an awful lot as well, guys. All right. Make sure this is working. For some reason, it's not. Is that showing on your guys' screen? Give me 1 second. No, it's not. Okay, everything I've done so far is not showing. Okay, give me 1 second. I've messed this up. You know what? I put an overlay over this, and all right. So what probably makes sense is to use the audio and go back and replay this. Bring up 2 tabs. One moving along with where I am up until this point. We are at the. It looks like about a 15-minute timeline. Let me see here. All right, I goofed up. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to find that. Yeah, for a 14-minute timeline. Sync up where I have the other discussion, and in other words, shut the volume off on one and play the volume on the other, and then when it finally catches up to the screen, because I'm not doing this twice. All right, sorry guys. People in the lobby, nobody's saying anything. All right, so basically, the words, what I'm saying is cool. Just memorize all these numbers on here. There's not a choice. And the clincher is more that these are coming up indirectly than directly. Okay, and read some of the stuff I have here. These numbers come up in passing. So remember again, the test is arithmetic based, and many of these tests are using numbers here that need to cancel out, okay? So just as a naive example, if I have 2/4 times, let's see, 8/3 times, wait, this stream is not catching up with me, that should be a 3. Let's say 9 over 2. Okay, what you want to do is cancel out, right? This 2 and that 2 cancels. This 3 here goes into that 9 3 times. Okay, and this 4 here goes into what I should have been written as an 8 2 times. And we end up with 1s at the bottom and the top is 6, right? So that's where we want to end up using these numbers in that manner. Okay, even when it looks ugly, if in other words, if we actually multiplied this without canceling, we would get x over z or something like that, right? Okay, we don't want more involved ugly numbers. We want simple numbers. So in a lot of these examples, that's what we're shooting for. All right. And again, if you see something like 169 when you're doing this kind of cancellation, right? If a numerator was say 169, you may want to find out if something in the denominator is 13 times something else. If that's the case, then you factor the denominator into 13 and another thing, and then you cancel with the numerator into 169. So both of them remove the 13 factor, right? So this is about, again, about your numeracy, your fluidity, your no hesitation math, your number sense. All these things are all jumbled up together there, all right? And this is the example I gave earlier. And in particular, where a lot of this comes up is the Pythagorean theorem, because it's perfect squares, okay? Most likely, they're not going to give you a right triangle where the side is like 133, because they're not going to make you do 133 squared plus 145 squared equals 155 squared. They're not testing you on multiplication anymore, at least through that mechanism, right? So that's the kind of thing you want to get out of here. And by the way, with that same notion, if I have something like, right, let's say this was a 3, 4, 5 right triangle, right? So if there was multiples there, right? If it was 6, 8, 10, that should leap out at you that that's still 3, 4, 5 right triangle. The same as if it's multiplied by 16, you should know that if this was 48, right? And the 5 was, what did we get there? 80. Okay, should still leap out at you that it's a 3, 4, 5 right triangle. And then over here, we're going to get 16, 32, we're going to get 64, right? So that should leap out at you that that's what's going on there. That's why we're using this, not only for the simple stuff where you should just be at hand, what's 5 times 5, but for stuff like this. This is where really where you're going to shine. And when you're solving SHSAT questions and all your high school problems, this is where you're going to end up shining, guys, okay? And it means this kind of stuff won't be an obstacle anymore. Okay, you should also know what I call your teen multiplications. In particular, 16 times 2, 3, 4, 5, 17 times 2, 3, 4, 5, 18 times 2, 3, 4, 5, and 19 times 2, 3, 5, 4, 5. And again, this is part of knowing 20 times 20. But there's numbers like this 50, 51, and 57. This comes up on a lot of standardized tests where they give you a choice like, here's the 4 choices. Which one is a prime number? A lot of you guys think 51 and 57 are prime numbers, but they're not. They're both divisible by 3. 51 is divisible by 3. And if you know your division by rules, if you add up the digits in a number and it's divisible by 3, then that number is divisible by 3. What am I talking about? 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 is divisible by 3. Therefore, 51 is divisible by 3. 57 is equal to 12. 12 is divisible by 3. Therefore, 57 is divisible by 3. It is not a prime number. I'm spending years watching kids do a sample question like that and get it wrong, including really smart kids. Okay? So that's something you guys need to know. Just get used to these. Some of you will see 48 and not realize that it's 16 times 3. This comes up over and over and over and over on all these exams. This is something you guys need to just know. Just become one with it, people. Okay? So again, they come up directly and they also come up indirectly. Okay? There could be a multiple. So if you see 102, okay, it's probably 17 times 3 times 2. Or that's the same as 17 times 6. Or it's the same as 34 times 3, right? That's about your mastery of all this kind of stuff. That the numbers should start leaping out at you, right? They're mostly testing you on problem solving, thinking outside the box. And most of these questions are not giving you crazy stuff. Like you will not see on the SHSAT 1, 2, 3 times 4, 5, 6. You will almost never see anything like that. Same as if there's a decimal. You're almost always only going to see 2 decimals. You're never really going to have to compute something with 4 decimals in it unless it's a scientific notation question. Okay? Otherwise, they're testing you on some other concept in, say, a word problem. All right? So if you get these so-called ugly numbers on the SHSAT and some of these other exams, either you solve the problem wrong, especially if it's a grid-in, or it cancels out somewhere before, like I showed you, with those numerators and denominators canceling out, okay? And most likely, when you do those cancellations, it's involving some of these numbers that I'm showing you guys, okay? Another thing that comes up often, a fact family, is 105, 3, and 35. That comes up a lot. And again, it could be 210. If it's 210, you know it's either 70 times 3, right, or 35 times 6, or somehow involving those numbers, okay? And most likely it's related to a triangle or something like that, okay? Or the area of something. 90 being 6 times 15 also comes up a lot. And that should leap out at you, right? If they give you a rectangle with the width of 6 and the length of 15, you're done. The area is already 90, right? This is something you guys should know. And remember your commutative property of multiplication, that A times B is the same as B times A, all right? So 34 times 56 is the same as 56 times 34. And by the way, that's a way to double check your answer. A lot of you guys, when you're solving problems and you go back to double check it, you solve it to double check it the exact same way. That's not a good idea, because if you made a mistake the first time you're doing it, you might catch it the second time you're doing it, but most likely you're going to make the same error a second time. So do it a completely different way, even if it's just going 34 times 56 and 56 times 34. Flip your things there, okay? Also, just on a side comment of that, if 515 divided by 5 is 103, it means if we multiply the last two numbers together, we should get back the original number. Again, you guys have ways to double check this. The number of category of so-called silly errors that you guys make is astronomical. It's bad enough that these tests have hard questions, but you guys are goofing up some of the easy parts of it, all right? And that's just throwing away points. It's bad enough when it's hard and you can't figure it out. But when it's easy, why are you throwing away points? And I'm getting adamant because out of 57 math questions, I could have a super top student get 10 of them wrong for absolutely ridiculous reasons. But at the end of the day, it ties back to your math mastery. And if you memorize these things and getting more proficient and used to them, these errors just float away. They just disappear. Okay? Okay, let me bring up something else now. You guys should know all your fractions too at this point. And again, it's not even so much that you need to memorize these, but if you see something like 0.5, it should leap out at you that that's a half. Okay? So I think most of you can do that. So most of you are able to grok these. Okay? A half, a fifth, a quarter, and a tenth. It's the other ones that you guys can't do. So you need to sit down and memorize that an eighth is 0.125. Okay? And also, when you see numbers, this 0.375, this also comes up often in a lot of examples, not just on the test, but in your homeworks, in your class. It's just an easy number for a teacher to work with or a test taker to work with. Okay? All right? Another way to look at this, too, is that 1/8 is half of a quarter. How do we know that? Because if we took a quarter, right, and we divided it by 2, right, we know that division by a fraction is equal, and this is 2/1 then. That means this goes away, and we get multiplied by a half. Well, a quarter times a half is an eighth. Okay? So one way to maneuver yourself out of this is if you forget what a quarter is equal to, or an eighth rather, I should really be saying, you can take this here, 0.25. Wait 1 second, my software's syncing. It's sending out this to the internet. 1 second. Okay, you can take this here and divide it by 2, right? And just remember that connectivity between the two of these, okay? And by the way, a 16th is half of an eighth. So if you don't memorize that a 16th is 0.0625, just take the eighth, which is 0.25, and divide it by 2, right? And it's a double check. You can also do something like 8 goes into 1. And actually do that division, okay? But we're trying to avoid, on test day, having to spend time doing these things, which is why we want to memorize them, okay? A third, you should all know, is 0.33333333333. So 2/3 would be 0.66666666666, okay? Okay? And 1/6 is half of a third. So that turns out to be 0.16. 0.01 with a repeating 6, right? And if you worked in with what I just said and you divide this by 2, you will end up getting that. Okay? Okay, a ninth looks like a tenth, but it's a repeating one. All right, so if a ninth is a repeating one, then something like 5/9 is a repeating 5. These are easy to memorize if you look for the patterns. Okay, a 12th is half of a 6th, right? We went that 0.03 bar was a third, and a 6 was 0.16 bar. Well, if we divide that by 2 again, and again, if we just memorize it, or at least be aware of that when you come across 0.083, because it's probably going to be one of the examples you're doing. Once you come across that, it'll be there. 1/7, if this is a kind of a cutesy way to remember, we have twice it is 14, and then times 4. So we're going to double 7 and get 14 of that. So there's a whole bunch more digits here, but just remember 7 is 1/7 is 0.1428. That's it. And there's going to be some other examples. We need to know more digits, okay? But in this case, you don't, okay? And then 1/11 is 0.09 repeating. So 0.09, 0.09, 0.09 again. So memorize these backwards and forwards. So don't just memorize that 1/7 is 0.1428. When you start seeing that in an example, think, oh, that's probably 1/7, right? When you see 0.4444, oh, that's probably 4/9, right? These are the kind of fluidity and mastery of the numbers that you guys should have. And by the way, there are repeating decimal problems that involve that you might get, especially on the SHSAT 9. I'm not talking about those here, but there was a way to solve some of those, all right? So that's mostly the products to know that I want to show you guys. I do have an example in this PDF relating to a mile being 5,280 feet. The reason I give that is not particularly dealing with this product to know thing, because even though this is supposed to be a unit conversion that you were supposed to memorize from grade 3 or something like that, most examples, homeworks, tests, and standardized exams, they will often give this to you in a reference sheet, or at least even in the question. Sometimes the question is there and it uses a mile. They might put in parentheses, it's 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. So if that's all true, why am I giving it to you? Because it deals with your numeracy and fluidity again. So what I've done is I've written out some of the factors of 5,280, and if you just look at it for a bit, you'll notice a whole bunch of stuff pops out of it, okay? And by the way, they're not necessarily always going to give this to you straight up in like an SHSAT example, even though it's in parentheses, it might say 1 mile is 5,820. There might be something where something had a revolution of 440 times, okay? And it should pop out at you, oh, that was one of the factors of 5,280, something like that. Or it could be 880 then, right? Because that's times 2. That should still leap out at you. So some of these here, and by the way, these are the factor things where they come up often too, that they're involving some of these numbers as their factors. So it turns out there's actually a lot of them, but you need to realize that, for instance, if 440 is there, that 10 is involved, right? Okay, and then also 44. Okay, and then if 44 is involved, then so is 22, right? So there's a line in the sand where this can get carried away. And also, like, if 44 is involved, then obviously 88 is involved, okay? And then if 88 is involved, is 176 involved as well, right? That kind of a thing. And it may not be. I don't see I wrote it here. Yeah, actually it's over here. So that's all I'm really trying to show with this kind of thing here. All right. And the point is that a lot of these are factors 11 and 10. In fact, a lot of the factors that I just showed you of the mile there, the 5,280, are not only factors of 11 and 10. Whoops. Wait a second. I know you live in 10, but 10 and 11. Both of them simultaneously. Also, many are multiples of 12. Many are multiples of 15 is 16. Okay? And again, if we factor as well, if for argument's sake a lot of multiples of 15, well, 3 and 5 are factors of 15. Same if a lot of them multiples of 16, then it means the factors of 16, which includes 4, is also involved with that, okay? So it's all tying into us getting used to the numbers and kind of things like that. All right, guys. So upon that hiccup, that's kind of really where all I wanted to throw out there to you guys today. Please like, please subscribe. If you're running into any problems, email me the problem and I'll help you with it. If you need more than that, I do tutoring. There's still tutoring. I'm overloaded over the next few days until the SHSAT happens on December 2nd, but realize some of you having it after that. So theoretically, there's still about 3 more weeks of SAT going on. So I have room for fitting in kids. I can basically tutor from 6 o'clock in the morning to midnight. I can tutor 24 hours a day. I don't think that would be healthy on your guys' side, but there's always room for one other person is what I'm saying here. All right, guys. Hope your studying is going well. Peace.